Hey, welcome back to another Alviso. This one is from a few weeks back, actually, catching up on some old footage that I captured. Another pretty windy day. This one had maybe 10 or 12 miles an hour wind. And today featured tons of attacking, mostly by Alex from Team California, who you will see a lot more of in the coming videos. I have some really cool content with him and his teammate, my frenemy Brian, going up against me and my teammate Chris. Although we haven't actually had a proper 2 versus 2 yet, but we're making that happen. I have some cool videos regardless. And Nick, who I think is actually unattached, but he's really strong, and he's a former collegiate racer riding for UC Santa Barbara. And Nick is actually still a Category 3, although he's winning Cat 3 road races. I have pretty awesome footage of him winning this gravel road race as a Category 3 from a reduced field, So check that out. That's going to be really awesome, and that's going to be up in the next week or two. So as you can see, the three of us took turns attacking each other, but the three of us never actually got together. So we never got real separation because, like, if I would go, Nick and Alec would chase. If Alex would go, Nick and me would chase. So it just made for really hard racing and really awesome training, which is why I like Alviso. In the end, it came down to a field sprint, so I'm just going to fast forward here to the last lap, and we'll do a play-by-play. I'll tell you how it went down. All right, here we go. Last lap. Now, the field has been reduced considerably. Alex, Nick, and myself have spent about the last 40 minutes attacking each other in the wind, but now on the last lap, my goal is to save energy, have fresh legs for the sprint finish, but I don't want to have to chase anybody down. So when I see Tracy open up this gap right here, I'm kind of rolling the dice because Tracy's strong, and I'm hoping that one of my competitors closes this down for me. And sure enough, it draws Alex out. So there goes Alex, the orange bike, and then Nick follows suit. And this is great because although Nick's a powerful guy, he's a pretty big guy too. So he doesn't have that real hard, snappy acceleration, and I'm able to jump on his wheel, get a good draft, and come across to Tracy without spending too much energy. Now I'm going to pause it right here because this is a very critical moment. If you are not a sprinter, think about this moment right here. You have Alex, Nick, and then myself, the three guys who have been doing the majority of the work this race, who just spent a bunch of energy to close down that gap to Tracy's attack. And you also have the crosswind section coming up on the last lap. So if you are not a sprinter, this is the moment to do a counterattack right now. Because you can get a gap on the three of us. We'll probably, the three of us, be looking at each other, hoping that somebody else closes it down. And then you enter this crosswind section of the course where you can gutter it, and even if somebody does chase you, they're doing just as much work as you are because you're letting the crosswind take away the draft. You can even see Alex checking over his shoulder here, expecting that counterattack to come. And I'm doing the same. I'm looking over my shoulder, expecting that counterattack to come. The pace really slows down because, look, Alec just doesn't want to sit on the front and do work and just tow me to the finish. So he smartly pulls off to the right on the downwind section, and now I'm just checking, and sure enough, there it goes. Big counterattack. And as predicted, we're just looking at each other because I don't want to chase it down. Alex and Nick will just follow me, and they're thinking the same thing. So this is how late race attacks are successful because everyone just looks at each other. Nobody wants to burn a match with a half a lap to go. And eventually Nick's had enough. He jumps across, and I'm yelling at Alex, rolling the dice. So when he takes this awkward line through the corner, I take the inside, and I just do a hard effort. I gutter it. It's a left-to-right wind, and I figure this is my opportunity to get across to that threatening move up the road without dragging anybody in my draft behind. Because remember, this is a crosswind, so the effort that I'm doing, the power that I'm producing, the person behind me has to match in order to not let a gap open up. And although I took an awkward line around that fading rider, I probably should have called out on your right. I wanted to stay to the right, but at least now Nick has only maybe 2 or 3 seconds here, so I don't have to do too much to close the rest of this down in the headwind. See, now if I would have waited and decided to close this gap down in the headwind section right here instead of the crosswind section, would have been a bad idea because the people behind me would have been benefiting from a much bigger draft, and then I would have had to do this harder effort to close the gap down, and then relatively speaking, the people behind would have had to do an easier effort, so I would have had to probably respond to a counterattack. But because I did a hard acceleration through the crosswind and I guttered it, everybody is doing that same amount of work. Nobody's really motivated to counterattack at this point. So unfortunately, Nick just powers away from this guy in front of me, which means I have to close this down inside of 1K to go. Definitely not ideal. But I put in this hard punchy acceleration just to make sure Alex, who's on my wheel now, just to make sure that Alex has to do a little acceleration too. Maybe he's got to burn a match inside of 1K also. But yeah, Nick can't fuck around. Can't let Nick get a gap. He'll be gone. So at this point, you guys probably know, and you can look at the graphic in the bottom right-hand corner. We are entering the final straight. The Alviso crit on the last lap here. 450 meters to go. This turns into a little bit of a crosswind into a straight tailwind. At this point, Nick's been off the front for a long time. He probably figures his best bet for crossing the finish line first is just to stand up, do this hard effort, and maybe drop people in the tailwind. And it seems like it starts to work. You can see behind Alex, gaps are opening up, but I'm staying close within a couple of inches. And when he starts to fade, I open it up. I pass Nick on the left where I'm still benefiting from a small but not insignificant amount of draft, and punch it as hard as I can for the first few pedal strokes so I can establish a gap on Alex and hold it to the line. Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks to those who sent in footage. I have a lot of amazing footage I'm going to turn into videos, so just keep sending it my way. And as always, hit like if you liked it, click subscribe if you haven't already, and see you at the next one.